Aloha kākou o Alani ko inoa no we anai maio no au ma Florida to the island. Aloha and welcome. I have a video today that is really hard to talk about, and I'm gonna be doing makeup today to help ease my anxiety of the topic. But it's a video that I wanted to make for a really long time, because I think it will help me and maybe it will help somebody else watching this. So let's get started. Okay, for context, I've already moisturized my face. Don't make fun of me because I don't have any foundation. When I moved, a lot of my stuff got lost. So I'm still like replacing and kind of like making do with what I have. So anyway, the topic of this video, as I'm sure you've already read the title, is This is Hard, growing up Indigenous. So for context, I reflected on it. I've been reflecting a lot recently, for self-growth, but I've been reflecting a lot, and I was the only Native Hawaiian in an all-white household. To kind of give a little bit of a backstory on this, my father is Native Hawaiian, and he passed away when I was 5 years old. He committed suicide, and from pretty much that point on, we went on to live with my mother's side of the family. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that and how it affected me, because it definitely impacted me growing up. So anyway, let's get started. I'm gonna do some concealer because I have some serious dark circles. I have this Pacifica correcting creams. They're kind of light, so if you're any darker than me, honestly, this is not gonna work out. But so when I was growing up, you know, it was really made apparent to me, and you know, whether things were done like said straight out to my face, or whether things were kind of like done subtly and I just maybe I internalized it, but I didn't quite realize what was going on. You know, I was told directly by multiple family members, and my father's family, they weren't really in my life. I have had conversations with my grandmother on my father's mother, and I was always under the impression that they really didn't want me. And I honestly had a conversation with her relatively recently, and she told me no, that wasn't the case. I was more or less only allowed to see them, or they were only allowed to see me a couple of times a year, and that was it. And they didn't want to lose their opportunity to see me by, I guess, pressing the issue, because then they would not have saw me at all. But anyway, moving forward, you know, I was told that I was not Hawaiian enough to be Hawaiian, and that the Hawaiians, other Hawaiians, would not want me, that they would reject me, and that like pretty much best I not pursue it, best I not press issue, best I not be Hawaiian. Really, honestly, that's, can't make this up. And part of me rejected it, But a lot of me internalized that, and that fear and that lack of confidence was really instilled in me. And for a lot of my younger life, it led me to I don't want to say do a lot of things I'm not proud of, but maybe act a certain type of way that I'm not necessarily proud of, or be a person who I would not have necessarily been. Anyway, so there was a time, so I went to Kanaka schools, which is a school for all Hawaiians, Hawaiian children. And I constantly felt like, not because of the school, but just to myself, because of my family. I was never encouraged to be a part of my culture. I was never encouraged to speak it. I was never encouraged in any type of way to practice my culture. A lot of it, when I did and when I was excited about it because I had learned something at school, I was pretty much immediately shut down and shunned. And it kind of just made me reject it. It made me reject being Hawaiian in the end. Well, not in the end, but at this time. And I was at one point a fluent speaker of Aloha Hawaii, and I intentionally forgot my language because I didn't want it anymore. And that is so sad and so freaking wrong, but that was a choice. It's not a choice I make now, but it was a choice I made at one point. And I went on to be this person who I felt like I always had to prove myself. Now I went on to be this tita and this version of this really toxic Hawaiian, this stereotype that I had to be the biggest, the baddest in the room, and I had to be a certain type of way to make people respect me, and they couldn't question me, and it was just really bad. And honestly, I still struggle with some of that to this day. I'm a little bit more aware now, but there are times I definitely go down the rabbit hole and I see myself doing the same habits and traits. But it really led me down the wrong direction because I felt that was my way of embracing my culture, and I always felt like I needed somebody's approval. So I thought, like, if I be this way, then nobody is gonna question me, right? It's not necessarily the case. Man. But I have notes over here. That's if you wonder what I'm looking at. I really just at a point wanted to drop it, and there was a point that I said I wasn't Hawaiian at all, and I chose to move to the States at the time, and I wanted to follow the American dream, and I thought, I'm gonna make it here, and that's gonna be that. I had my grandmother on my mother's side really wanting me to go into the medical field, and I was a pharmacy technician, and to everybody else I was living the dream. But honestly, I was not doing anything in the right way because I wasn't doing anything for me. I was doing everything for them because that's what I was taught to do. you know, now I realize the hewa or the wrong that I've done. And I'm still, I have a hard time admitting how badly that their words and actions seriously hurt me. And, they continue to affect me to this day. Because to an extent, I think I'm still trying to protect them. And I can't say the reason behind why you would tell somebody these kind of things and be hurtful, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally or whatever the motive was behind it. I really honestly don't know. But the outcome is the same regardless. Anyway, I've really realized who I've become because of all of this. And there is, a number of other things that have happened to me that really I lack a lot of self-confidence. And I don't mean like self-confidence in a sense of how I look. There was a period of time of that, yeah. There was a point where just naturally I am a little bit darker than the rest of my family. And I was made fun of for that. And that was hard. It was always kind of a joke. I don't know. There was a quote, well, not necessarily a quote, but there was a show I was watching, and I really wish that I could remember the show. Maybe someone watched it too, I don't know. But the context of the show, and I think this is relatable to a lot of other races, but the context of the show was, it was two Black girls talking in the show. One of them, I think she was biracial. She was like Black and white. So she was light skin. And the girl told her, oh, they only like you because you're like Diet Coke. So the darker girl told this to the lighter girl. And it really resonated with me because I'm mixed race, it's almost like people who are not Hawaiian, fill in the blank, they only like you because you're lighter. But if you're any darker, if you're any more Hawaiian, it's not acceptable. I don't know. White passing, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I've been toted around like a little exotic animal for so long. I have a step family and they're from the States. And they were like, oh, my little Hawaiian girl. And brought me around to all their friends and was like, look, my little Hawaiian granddaughter. And I think everyone glosses over how detrimental it is to be put on display like that. It's just ridiculous. Why do people think it's okay to do these things? I don't know. But, I'm still trying to instill confidence in myself and rebuild myself from everything that has happened. And tell myself, what I'm doing is not wrong. And I really don't owe it to anyone to prove anything to anybody. I don't need to be Hawaiian enough. I have my ancestors behind me to tell me that I'm Hawaiian enough. Thank you. Yeah. But I'm still trying to heal and realize who is negative in my life and what comments are detrimental to me, what comments I need to shut down. Because there was a point of time where young me would just eat up everything and then cry later, you know. Of course, not letting anybody else see me cry, but, you know, cry later, and cannot continue that anymore. You know, I have to make space for myself and realize that nobody is going to set the table for me. Okay, I need to make space for myself at the table because I deserve to eat just as much as everybody else at that table. And that's just what it is. You know, you have to just own it, I guess. There's just a lot of things that people do that are so toxic. And, you know, you have a lot of family members that hide behind their relationship to you and think it's okay to say whatever to you unfiltered, even if it's hurtful, because they try and justify it. And it's not okay. Don't accept that from anybody at all. I don't care who they are. You need to prove yourself to anybody. And if you are an Indigenous person or you're someone of mixed race, you don't need to prove you are anything to anyone. You have the option to be whatever you want. In my opinion, if you want to acknowledge something and not acknowledge the other thing, go for it. You know, I have a really hard time because I have all these Indigenous island cultures, and then, you know, I have my white side. So it's kind of like, honestly, it's just it's the story of colonialism. Hawaii, Guam, Philippines, they're all colonized. A lot of them worked on plantations in Hawaii for plantation owners, if you didn't know that. And you know, that's how it came to be. And I'm really not proud of a lot of that story because it's really sad. You know, I have, part of me is the oppressor and part of me is the oppressed. And that's a really tough thing to deal with. You know? And we didn't necessarily choose to have to deal with it. It just kind of got placed upon us. So the moral of the story is always make space for yourself. You don't owe anyone anything. You can do whatever you want. That's it. That's my little rant, I guess, speech, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but particularly to the Native Hawaiians, they're young or old or wherever you are in life, Native Hawaiian, you don't owe anyone anything. You don't have to choose any path in life that you don't want to choose. And whenever you're ready, there's a whole team of other natives, Indigenous people, Hawaiians that are here for you. And you are not alone. So don't ever let anybody take that away from you. Okay? Aloha. Ahuiho.